Mayday, Mayday. We have a spending problem and we're going down fast. Hello everyone, this is Investing with Envy and welcome back to another video. Many of you are aware that ever since COVID happened, the government has been handing out money to people like it's a charity. More and more bills are being passed for the government to pay people to stay home, and huge bills are being passed to revive the economy. The US government recently passed a $1 trillion bill that will be used to create better roads and bridges, transit and rail, broadband upgrades, upgrading airports, ports and waterways, environmental remediations, improving power and water systems, and switching to electric vehicles. There's a $15 billion budget that's allocated towards switching to electric vehicles, and $7.5 billion of that money is going towards creating new charging stations for electric vehicles. Elon Musk recently did an interview and he was asked about his thoughts about the new infrastructure bill, because it is assumed that this bill would help Tesla tremendously because they would fund more charging stations, which give people even more reasons to purchase a Tesla.
Everyone is talking about the infrastructure plan and the bill, and I wanted to ask you, say tomorrow you get a phone call from Joe Biden and he says...
I think that's unlikely, but sure.
Okay. You know, he just gives you a call and he says, I haven't been talking a lot about Tesla lately, but, what do you need from this bill? What are your needs? What do you answer him?
Well, to be totally frank, I don't know if at least no one at Tesla has actually brought up whether they care about this bill or not. I think if this bill happened or didn't happen, I don't know. We don't think about it at all, really.
Okay.
It might be better. Honestly, it might be better if the bill doesn't pass, because we've spent so much money. It's like the federal budget deficit is insane. It's like $3 trillion. Federal expenditures are $7 trillion. Federal revenue is $4 trillion. That's a $3 trillion difference in. If this was a company, it'd be a $3 trillion loss. So I don't know if we should be adding to that loss. That seems pretty crazy. Something's got to give. You can't just spend $3 trillion more than you earn every year and expect. Don't expect something bad to happen. I think this is not good.
Well, Mitch McConnell is actually saying.
In fact, if I may elaborate on that, the deficit is more than $3 trillion when you look at the future obligations. So it's $7 trillion of current expenditures, but it's much more than that if you look at future obligations for Social Security, Medicare, and so forth. So we're running this incredible deficit. Something's got to give. I don't know. This can't keep going.
You said at this conference actually a year ago that you think government should really just be hands-off when it comes to innovation. Though with this bill, there is a lot of support for EVs, and it could be the biggest change that we've seen throughout the country in terms of the infrastructure of EVs, and it helps Tesla. What do you think the role of government should be?
I think the role of government should be that of like a referee. But not a player on the field. Generally, government should, I think, just try to get out of the way and not impede progress. I think there's a general problem, not just in the U.S., but in most countries, where the rules and regulations keep increasing every year. Rules and regulations are immortal. They don't die. There's not a natural. Occasionally, you see some law with a sunset provision, but really, otherwise, the vast majority of rules and regulations live forever. And so, if more rules and regulations are applied every year, and it just keeps growing and growing, eventually, it takes longer and longer, and it's harder to do things. And there's not really an effective garbage collection system for removing rules and regulations. And so, gradually, this hardens the arteries of civilization, where you're able to do less and less over time, So I think government should be really trying hard to get rid of rules and regulations that perhaps had some merit at some point, but don't have merit currently. But there's very little effort in this direction. This is a big problem.
Elon Musk is definitely someone that would benefit from this infrastructure bill, but he is opposed to it because he already sees that we have a major spending problem, and he sees catastrophic things happening if we don't reduce spending. He knows he can benefit from this, but his moral compass is saying that the government needs to stop because although they're helping his company, they're hurting millions of other poor and middle class Americans. He thinks the government should play the role of a referee and not a player in the game. Right now, not only is the government the referee in the game, the government is also a major player that's on steroids with unlimited power because they have the money printing machine behind them. I don't know about you, but how is the government going to pay for this? Because $1 trillion is a lot of money, and how can the US government afford it? If the US government was a public company, we would see its stock plummeting from spending a lot more than they earn, and they would have extreme debt ratios. But we look at the United States as one of the best countries in the world, and that there's nothing wrong with how they're operating because that is what they want us to think. That is what they portray in the media, because if people really knew what was going on, there would probably be a revolution. The US government is preying on the ignorance of people by using words that will not alarm the public because they're really in a tough spot and they have to steal your wealth by making you look the other way while they do it. You're thinking, how is the government stealing my wealth when I have the same amount in my bank account and my bank account hasn't been hacked? If the government tried stealing your money and taxing you another 10 to 15%, you would definitely not be happy about it because you would see less money in your bank account at the end of the year, and you and other people will make sure you can voice your opinions. But the government is very smart, and they take your money and have you aim your anger at everyone else but the government. They actually look like the good guys because they're giving away trillions of dollars to the people. In a way, that is true, but as the saying goes, there's no such thing as a free lunch. They're printing trillions of dollars to fund these infrastructure plans and pay people to stay home, and they're spending a lot more than they're making. By increasing the money supply, they're creating inflation, which means that your money is worth less because it can buy less goods and services. Instead of you being mad at the government for printing more money and creating higher inflation, you aim your anger at the business owners that are increasing their prices for having to pay people higher wages. And the cost of higher wages gets transferred on to the consumer, who is you and I. We've also heard the politicians say such things as, we have to tax the rich. The wealthiest people in America have reached that status from owning profitable businesses that benefit society and make our lives better. The narrative is being spun around that we should hate the rich when they're the ones who have profitable businesses, when the government itself has not been in surplus for over 20 years. Can you imagine a business that hasn't done things right and hasn't been profitable in 20 years wanting to steal money from profitable businesses and hardworking citizens like you and I? Now you can understand why, if people knew exactly what's happening, there would probably be a revolution. They're not directly stealing money out of your pocket, but they are reducing the purchasing power of the money that you already have, which is like a ninja stealing your money without you knowing it, because that is what inflation does. Give a person with a spending problem $1 and they'll spend it. Give a person with a spending problem $1 million, $1 trillion, multi-trillions of dollars, and most likely you can predict that that money will be mismanaged. Hence, Mayday, we have a spending problem. If you did enjoy the video or even learned anything from this video, please click that like button and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you get alerts whenever I do upload another video. This is Investing with Envy, and I will see you on the next video.